Hello again, everybody, and welcome to Friday's episode of Big Blue Kickoff Live, presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the New York Football Giants. Paul Dottino and Matt Citak with you for the next hour. Our phone number is 201-939-4513. You can also find us on social media at #GiantsChat, and a simulcast of this program is on the New York Giants page of the YouTube site. Folks, we're going to get right to it now because our first guest today, or should I say our only guest of the day, to talk about the Texas Tech football prospects is already on the line, and that is Brian Jensen, the play-by-play man for the Red Raiders. And we welcome Brian to our show right off the top. And Brian, good morning to you. And look, I'll be honest. I think David Bailey, who came to you guys after 3 years at Stanford, right now today is the best pure pass rushing edge player in this draft. Now, maybe a couple of years from now, somebody like Reese may wind up being more devastating. But today, as we go into this draft, I think Bailey is the number one pure pass rusher. What say you, and how high do you think he'll go?
Well, I totally agree. Pretty obviously that I would, but I totally agree in a couple of reasons that what we saw throughout his year with Texas Tech. He goes up against the two first-round draft pick tackles with Utah and pretty much dominated that game and kept the quarterback from being able to do what he wanted to do, running or passing with the football. Didn't get a bunch of sack totals out of it, but didn't need to because he just dominated the line of scrimmage and dominated the game. That showed me right there he was a level above what most of these guys that are getting, the great accolades are. The other time that I think, or the other stat that I would look at, isn't necessarily the sack totals as much as it is what he did to change games in the offensive opposition. Because he may not have gotten to the quarterback every time, but he certainly dominated the person that he was up against and made sure the quarterback knew where he was at all times, and was also able to extend plays to the point where in a running play he would, ordinarily beat the running back to the sideline and not allow him to turn the corner. So his quickness is ridiculous. He's so fast off the snap. His moves are incredible. And I believe he's going to go as high as I've seen, as high as 3, and I believe it because I know there is a team there that would really like to move up and get him if they can make the trade that they want to make.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I've seen Bailey go as high as 2 in some mock drafts, 2, 3, pretty much somewhere in the top 7 picks in most mock drafts. But as Paul mentioned, he does have some good competition in terms of who might be the first edge rusher taken between David Bailey. There's Alva Reese, Ruben Bain, just to name a few. What part of Bailey's game do you think maybe would have him fall below those other 2 guys? Like, I guess what would be considered his weakness or area that he needs to improve on?
Well, I think probably just the power side of things. He's very quick and uses his quickness. Now, in the NFL, as you know, the level of the quickness on the other side typically is much greater than it is in a college full season. So I think, he's going to be okay with his quickness. It's the power. It's going up and just powering through some of those linemen that are quick enough to get where he is going to go, and now he's going to have to use power to get around him. His leverage is excellent. He is very good at using leverage, but just overall power, I think, is something that would need to be and will be increased as he, continues to develop.
You mentioned as high as 3. I'll be honest, originally, as we started thinking about the draft after the season was over, I thought he'd go to the Jets at 2. But as we get closer to the draft, more and more people are saying Reese is going to go to the Jets, and it won't be Bailey. But you just mentioned as high as 3. I'm guessing the scuttlebutt around campus is that the Cardinals at 3 are likely to take him. Is that what you're hinting to us?
Well, what I'm hinting is that there is a team, and I'm actually I live in the city of that team. That is, there's been a lot of conversation about the opportunity, the possibility of jumping up and doing a deal with Arizona to get to that 3 spot.
Okay, well, I'm not going to give out your home address, but I'm assuming that it's in Texas, which means it's Houston or Dallas, doesn't it?
That's correct.
All right. I'm not going to.
Knowing that I'm on a Giants podcast, I would probably believe that it starts with the letter D.
Okay. Well, see, I didn't know how far I could push you, and I didn't want to put you in an awkward spot, but I certainly wanted to see if we could get a little more of a sniff. Thank you.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean,
Sure.
Again, in some mock drafts, I have seen the Dallas Cowboys try to trade up, whether it's 3, 4, even with the Giants at 5, and most of them have them picking, David Bailey or one of those other edge rushers. So, yeah,
Right.
that does seem to be a possibility. I want to change subject now to another guy up front playing alongside David Bailey and one of my favorite potential round 2 options for the New York Giants, and that would be Lee Hunter. Just a big run-stuffing defensive tackle. Can you just tell us a little bit about his game? I know was more dominant against the run than necessarily as a pass rusher, but do you see did he show flashes of being able to put together that pass rushing ability in order to be a successful pass rusher in the NFL to go with that run stuffing ability?
Oh, absolutely. And he's a guy that you talk about power. I mentioned that might be an area that David Bailey needs to continue to improve upon. Lee Hunter is a power machine, and he is obviously a run stopper. I mean, Texas Tech was number 1 against the run throughout the year. And he was the majority of the reason. Now, keep in mind, he was double teamed most of the time as well. So the teams had a difficult time trying to figure out: do we double team David Bailey or do we double team Lee Hunter? Well, most of the time it was Lee Hunter, and they would try to bring in a tight end or something else, or swing out a running back to try to chip Bailey. But Hunter would take a couple of guys on, still be involved in the running play, and whenever they did slide somebody over and try to get in with Bailey, that left Hunter the opportunity to get right at the quarterback, and he's got great feet. So he's another one that I think you're going to see some big things out of at the next level.
Well, I think he will translate well, in my opinion, Brian, because his motor is hot. I see a guy who really gets after it and doesn't give up on a play and does not tire easily. He puts out a lot of energy on the football field.
Yes, and he is the guy that you want in your locker room. He is one of the great personalities that you'll ever see coming out of college, headed to the NFL, and he's going to carry that on. And you know how important it is to have guys that not only do it on the field, but that can also carry their own weight in a locker room. That those are the guys that typically last a long, long time in the NFL.
Yeah. So sticking with the defense, but moving back one level, I want to ask you about Jacob Rodriguez, who, I've been following all the different media draft boards, rankings, mock drafts, all these different things, basically since the end of the NFL season. And he seems to be one of the fastest rising prospects in this entire process. He started as maybe like a late day 2 pick, and now he could find himself maybe even the end of the first, but early second. On NFL.com, they have his player comp as Carson Schlesinger, who obviously just won Defensive Player of the Year. And, he seems like Jacob Rodriguez, he could be one of, the safer picks. Is this a situation where, teams should just not overthink it and take this guy? Because it seems like he could just make an immediate impact to an NFL defense and, immediately be a key contributor.
Yeah, for those that don't know him, he won almost every defensive award there is, and it's because he is ultra talented. He doesn't have all the numbers, okay, so he's not going to eye pop you when you look at him. But a couple of things will, and that is his intelligence. He's always in the right spot. His ability to punch a football, to figure out ways to cause a turnover. He led the world in that category. And here's a guy that his talent is not only on the field but between the ears. The guy just knows how to win. And he started out as a quarterback and then was like a multi-player offensively for Virginia his one season there before he transferred to Tech and became a defensive player. So, again, he's got the eye-hand coordination, of a guy that you wouldn't expect at that level. So when he taps the ball, he's going to go after it and pick it off. He's not just going to let it fall to the ground. So he just has those kinds of instincts and those kinds of things that are different, I think, for most guys that are his size and his, and his, what you would look at as just not great eye candy.
It's interesting you say that, Brian, because there's no question about his level of production, his smarts, his instincts. As you said, I saw the 13 forced fumbles in his career, which is a ridiculous number as well. I think the question I have when I see it says 6'1.5" and 231 pounds, there is a level of size, strength, the big 335-pound guards who are going to try to get to the second level and take him out of a play, where he's going to have to make that adjustment. Is he strong enough? Is he sturdy enough? We know he is at the NCAA level. Is he going to be able to translate that physicality to the NFL? Because he's got everything else, intangibles-wise, to be a terrific NFL player.
Well, and you're describing exactly why he's a guy that started out in the third round and is sliding forward, because they have now tested all of these things. They've now had the opportunity to see him at not only the combine, which, he was just a spectacular performer at the combine, but also in his pro day. And all of the, all the coaches and all of the scouts and the people that have been able to test him throughout this are believing that the answer to your questions are yes. That he is a guy that will be able to do these kinds of things. And I think that's why you're seeing him slide up the board so much.
The other defensive player, is it Romello or Romello? I'm not 100% sure because I haven't done their games.
Romello.
It is Romello.
Romello Height.
Okay, well, I'm looking at another guy here on defense. And by the way, he played at 4 different schools. USC, Georgia Tech, Auburn, and he finally gets the Texas Tech. So I don't know, based on only seeing him for 1 year, what your thoughts are there. But when I looked at some of the highlights, the cut-ups that I saw, I said he's got a good motor, he's got a good bend, and he's got a good burst. But I was also concerned about him shedding tackles and about some of his power. Am I accurate on that?
Yeah. He's a taller, thinner version of a David Bailey type. He's very quick, so he does have the quickness factor. Does need to, add some weight. But he's the kind of guy that you can probably move around a little bit more. I'm not quite sure exactly where, what position he'll fit in the NFL. He's going to fit because, like you said, he's not only got the motor, but he's got the bend, he's got the skills. He can get around players. Taking them on straight on is your question, and that again is where the tests are going to prove out whether he can do it or not. I think he can, but I think he can if he continues to develop. He is a guy that I think will get better as he goes. So right now is not his peak. Some guys come out of college and you're going to get what they are, and you're not going to get a whole lot, and those are the ones that fall off to the wayside as they go. But this is a guy, I think, that has a lot of development in front of him.
And I wonder, Brian,
if be a really good one.
I wonder if because he transferred so often, if that hindered his development somewhat.
Possibly, yeah. I wouldn't put that as a reason that it didn't. So yeah, I think that's possible.
Yeah, we're about 15 minutes in, and we've only spoken about one side of the ball. I think that goes to show just how strong a Texas Tech
they were really good
defense was. Yeah, I mean, all 4 guys we talked about are day 1 or probably day 2 picks. But I do want to turn the attention to the other side of the ball. Texas Tech has 2 wide receivers that are likely to hear their names called at some point in this draft, probably on day 3, Reggie Virgil and Caleb Douglas. Paul always talks about how he loves the skyscraper wide receivers, and these guys are Virgil 6'3", Caleb Douglas 6'4". So just can you let our listeners know, how would you differentiate between the two in their games, and which one do you think, I guess, has a higher ceiling in the NFL?
Douglas is a speed guy, a guy that is got some power to him too, so he can take on he can win the 50-50 battle. Virgil is a little bit more of he's a guy that's going to sky. He can get up in the air and he can make the spectacular catch, and is also a guy that doesn't have a problem going across the middle. So, that's obviously something you really want to look for. When the guy, has size and speed, you want to go, okay, well, that's great, but if all we can do is send him on fly patterns, we're kind of screwed. So you want a guy that's, not afraid to do the dirty work in the middle, and he's one of those guys too. So Virgil is the guy that I think has a little bit more upside, but, remains to be seen, I guess. I do want to throw one quick thing out that wasn't mentioned on defense. Keep the name Steve Wisniewski in your head, okay? Safety, gonna get drafted late, going to make a big impact in the NFL. He's the guy that a couple of years ago had 8 interceptions for North Dakota State before he transferred to Tech after a year of injury. And this is a guy that is a tremendous hitter at the safety position and extremely smart, was never out of position. Just keep that one in your back pocket.
Well, I was just going to ask you if you had a sleeper, and I guess you just gave him to us. I'm looking at his measurements, 6'3.5", and my goodness, 214 pounds. So the size is certainly going to attract some folks. What are the characteristics about him on the field that you really like, Brian?
Well, like I say, he was never out of position. This is a guy that's extremely intelligent about his game, and he comes downhill in a hurry.
Okay.
And he's always at the ball. I mean, it's one of those things where every time we would see we'd call whoever made the tackle, we'd look up and say, well, wait a minute, might have an assist in there by Wisniewski because he's always there. And, just a tremendous guy. And I think one of those guys that really benefited from getting into the upper level in college football after he left North Dakota State.
So he is more of a strong safety, or is he one of those like big nickel, linebackers that people will play sometimes at this league?
I think he could do both. I think he's one of those that's a great point. He could slide into that role, I think, pretty easily.
Well, then that certainly will attract some of the NFL folks.
Yeah, last one for me. Just give us maybe one guy on each side of the ball that come this time next year we're going to be talking about as some of these, potential top prospects or day 1 or day 2 picks from Texas Tech.
Okay, so on the defensive side of the ball, I'd go with A.J. Holmes, defensive tackle. He's the guy that's going to take the load of Lee Hunter. And a guy that is, he just has some upside that looks tremendous. On the offensive side of the ball, and I'd have to go with Brendan Sorsby, the quarterback, that is coming over from Cincinnati. With this offense, he's a guy that could absolutely light it up. And if he does, what we're hoping is that we finally have someone in the Heisman Trophy conversation that sticks right to the end.
Would be very cool. Brian Jensen is the play-by-play man for the Texas Tech Red Raiders. Brian, where else can people find some of your stuff?
Oh, they can go, we're on, that's a great question. Where do they find my stuff? Well, I do have a podcast that's called Broadcast Booth, and it's about the play-by-play guys and, their lives and such. So you can find that on just about any podcast platform out there. And then during the season, we're on the Varsity Network app, and Sirius XM, so you can get us on any game on the weekend.
That's what I love about that Varsity Network app. I mean, it's so cool because no matter what college that you're a fan of, you can get those games anywhere in the world. It's just totally awesome.
It's great.
Yeah. Really is.
Absolutely love it.
Brian, thank you so much for the information. We appreciate your time. Enjoy the summer.
Thank you, Brian.
All right. Anytime. Thank you.
Be well. So, Texas Tech, folks, you're going to hear some of these names early. I mean, there's just no question about it. And you and I have both had some real good things to say about Lee Hunter. I think we're a little higher on him than John might be, but 37, you got to be thinking about it.
Yeah, I mean, look, obviously the pick at number 5 will play a part in the decision-making behind pick number 37, but let's say it's like Caleb Downs at 5 or a wide receiver, an offensive lineman, come pick 37 between Lee Hunter and Jacob Rodriguez. It might be a little bit high for Jacob Rodriguez, but again, I just think he's such a safe prospect. Like, he's going to step in and be immediately a contributor and a solid one as a rookie, in my opinion. Either of those guys would be good picks at 37. Either of them would go a very long way in helping shoring up this defense.
The rationale for Hunter is that he is a ready-made plug-and-play run stopper.
Yeah.
And we heard John Harbaugh tell us in the last 2 press briefings he had that he is absolutely committed. You have to stop the run. It needs to be done. There is no end ifs or buts about it. He was not leaving any room for doubt.
mean, Sonny Styles or Caleb Downs at 5 and then Lee Hunter at 37, your run defense immediately becomes significantly better. Just saying.
I would not disagree with that at all, actually. I could definitely see a tremendous boost to that side of the ball if they should be able to obtain both of those guys. So we thank again Brian Jensen, play-by-play guy of Texas Tech, for his time, and it was really, really cool to get some of that information. We hope you guys enjoyed it as well. We come to you from the Giants Podcast Studio, presented by Hackensack Meridian Health. Keep getting better. And once again, our number is 201-939-4513. And if you don't catch the show live, you can always catch it as part of the Giants Podcast Network on the Giants mobile app, podcast platforms everywhere, and at giants.com/podcasts. All right, now we go to your phone calls, and we'll see who is up first. It looks like it's John in Cape Cod. You're on Big Blue Kickoff Live. Hello.
Good afternoon, guys. Listen, I'm glad you're back, Paul, because I got something at the end before I go off that maybe you can give a short history lesson for all the young listeners here.
Okay.
I certainly hope that at 5, the Giants get the corner or the linebacker. I'd like to know what your personal preferences are, both of you. Speaking of second round, the guy caught my eye. I don't know if he'll be there in the second round, but big defensive lineman from the U, Baines. I watched him play 3 times, and the guy's got power, hustle, and he's big.
Are you talking about Ruben Bain?
Yeah, Bain's going to be gone in the first 10 picks for sure.
He's like a top 7 or 8 pick.
Okay.
Yeah, he won't be around. I mean, we know that.
If he were there at 37, that would be very easy.
Something would be wrong then if he was there at 37, and I would probably be shying away from him if he drops that far. In reference to your first question, though, you said linebacker, which I assume you're thinking Styles, right?
Yeah,
and you said
absolutely.
Corners. You're thinking Delane, who I'm not as high on him. I know John's very high on him. I'm not as high. I would not touch Delane at 5.
I think Delane has a lot of potential and a lot of upside. I think that would be more situation where maybe if you could trade down to like 8 or 9, and again, obviously it takes 2 to tango for that, but if you were able to move down a couple of picks and then get him there, I would be very on board with that. Assuming, you move down and then Styles, Caleb Downs, Jeremiah Love, Maui Noah, like those guys are then gone. Delane might be the top player on the board, and I'd be perfectly happy with that, plus a day 2 pick.
But you're not taking him at 5.
At 5, I would rather have one of the Styles, Downs, even Maui Noah. Probably rather have one of those guys.
Yeah, and I feel the same. I'd have no problem taking those other fellas, including Styles, at 5. That's my take.
But I do think Delane is good. I think he
wasn't good, but I don't see the value. I don't see the value at 5.
He needs some, polishing off for sure. I don't think he's going to step in and be a rookie of the year or defensive player of the year candidate year 1, like kind of Sauce Gardner was a couple of years ago. And you take a corner that high, you obviously expect him to be pretty big impact guy right away. But I do think in time he could be one of the league's better, shut down corners.
John,
he has that upside.
The other item, John, is that there are a number of actually quality corners that you'll be able to get in the second and even the third round. Not at the top of the shelf, but guys who could still play.
Okay. Last thing, I was rummaging through some stuff in my closet, and I came across an old Giants jersey, and everything came back to me. And, Paul, I'm sure you can talk about this guy for all the younger listeners out there. The guy who was part of the turnaround for the Giants after 18 bad years. The guy who was Lawrence Taylor before Lawrence Taylor, the only 3-time letterman in the history of Michigan State.
Yeah, Brad Van Pelt.
Yes.
Yeah, well, he was a safety in college.
I know. Yep.
And was literally a dynamite prospect who had all the physical skills. He was like the Dave Winfield of athletics before Dave Winfield, where he could have done a lot of stuff. Baseball, football, basketball, tremendous athlete, tremendous smarts and instincts, had great length. And because of his cover skills as a safety, when he got to the NFL, not only was he a dominant guy who could get after and pursue in the running game. He was incredible in coverage, obviously, because he was a great safety with the Spartans. So you knew he was going to have great cover skills. Brad Van Pelt made 5 Pro Bowls, for goodness sakes, okay? He was the number 10 after Fran Tarkenton was for the Giants. And, you know, I'll be honest, it hurts me because he was such a great Giant that, you know, he wasn't here for the 86.
Yeah.
You know,
I felt terrible about that.
I know. But you see, Brad wanted out. Okay, that was the problem. He wanted out. He was tired of the losing. He was frustrated. He was disgusted. He basically told the Giants he wanted to be traded. And so they sent him to Minnesota for Tony Galbraith, who was an outstanding third down back, catching passes out of the backfield. Minnesota, he didn't want to play in Minnesota. So he told the Vikings, I'm not playing for you guys. I want to go out to the West Coast. And he forced the Vikings then to turn around and trade him to the Raiders.
That's right. I'll tell you something else. When he came into the Giants, they didn't really know where he fit. They tried him in the middle, and that didn't work. In today's game, I don't know that he would have stuck around on the club. But when they moved him to strong side linebacker, he found a home. And I remember John Madden saying he was the best run-stopping linebacker he'd ever seen.
Well, his pursuit was incredible. In the run game, he would get up and down the line and get out to the edge like nobody's business. The interesting part, when he first came to the Giants, they were still at the Yale Bowl, okay? And he was on the taxi squad, which now is kind of what the practice squad has become over the course of time. And so you're right. He did not immediately step into the lineup, but became one of the true all-time great. Do we know what number he is in the top 100? I know you helped put that together.
Yes, not off the top of my head.
He's really high, and he should be.
He is.
But Matt's going to look that up. See what number he's at.
He's in the top 30. I know that.
That doesn't say what he should be.
28. Yeah.
There you go. Great player. And by the way, heck of a good guy. I got to know him afterwards, and then tragically, because of a defective heart, he wound up passing away from heart failure. Thank you, John. I appreciate it and love talking memory lane with you.
Thanks for the call, John.
Nick from New Jersey, you're next on the show. Hello. Nick, hello.
Before I get into the trade back scenario I want to talk about, do you guys have an idea when, I don't know if you guys in the building know this, when the Giants draft party tickets are dropping to the public?
Well, we don't have any details on that as of yet, unless you do.
No, not yet.
Nope.
Information should be coming soon, but nothing official yet.
The only thing that I will tell you is that because of all the stuff going on here with the World Cup, it won't be here. That I can tell you. It can't be on the property because the stadium is being inundated with preparations for the World Cup.
Yeah, I think
that I can tell you.
We should have an announcement soon on that with all the information you need.
Anyway, but thanks for checking, Nick. It'll be out as quickly as they can get it out. Trust me.
Okay, no problem. And so let's play a little trade back scenario here.
Okay, how far do you want to go?
All right, let's obviously Mendoza. Reese goes to New York. Maui Noah goes to Arizona. Styles goes to Tennessee. Dallas calls up, wants Bailey, and wants to give you 20. They want to give you 20 for it. Would you be? And I know I hate moving back with divisions after the Devontae Smith trade. And I'm scarred for life after that. But would you be willing to take 20 for that, and potentially you can get Delane there? I don't even mind that Tennessee corner McCoy. I know he's got questions surrounding the knee, and then who knows? Maybe that Penn State guard could even be at 20 for you. And that
what else are you getting
for you?
Well, first of all, Dallas has 2 picks in this first round. They also have 12. If they're trading up to 5, I feel like 12 is going to be the more likely pick they're giving up than 20.
Oh. Yeah, because 20 is way too low.
When on question, obviously we're getting 12 for 5, and then they're also giving us 20.
Oh, I mean 12 and 20? Yeah, I would do that.
You honestly think they're going to give you 12
There's
and 20?
no way that they would give that.
I don't see that happening.
That would fall under the category that Paul likes to call part of the Godfather offer. That, as much as I agree with you, I wouldn't love doing a trade with a division rival, giving them one of the top players in the draft. But if they're going to give us 12 and 20, then sign me up.
Yeah,
but they're not doing it.
No.
I'm somewhat trying to compare it to last year when Atlanta moved up into the late first for Pearson, gave up a future first. And we're talking 12-5. Like, I feel like that could warrant the 20th overall pick.
You're not wrong, but at the time when Atlanta made that trade, everyone was saying, what the heck are they doing?
Right.
This doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. And obviously, circumstances around that trade now look even worse, but that's beyond the point.
I'd say so.
But yeah, I remember at the time, my first reaction was, what the heck are they thinking?
Right.
Like, I thought that was a very, very steep price to pay for an edge rusher, who did show some promise, but I don't think the Cowboys are going to offer 12 and 20. They could offer 12 and second round pick and maybe a third round pick in 2027 or a day 3 pick. That I could see as a more likely option. I think there's also other teams a little bit picking before the Cowboys that, if you want to believe the buzz that's going around in the NFL world, obviously this is smokescreen season, so you can't believe everything you hear, but I've read a lot of reports that the Chiefs might be very interested in moving up for if David Bailey is still there at 5, and that obviously would only be dropping down to 9. That would be a situation where you only move down a handful of picks. You add a day 2 pick, and you not definitely, but there's a good chance you still get one of the guys that you were considering at 5.
The Chiefs might even have to be Love.
Or Love, yeah.
There's a chance that they would really like to get their hands on Love.
There's also, a chance that someone with the Cleveland Browns picking at 6, the current buzz is that they are very gung-ho on taking Carnell Tate. There could be someone that falls in love with Carnell Tate and wants to jump ahead of the Browns to get him. Giants would be the spot to try to aim for that trade then. Yeah. So there are a couple of guys that, if you want to believe the buzz, the rumors going around on Twitter, around the NFL world, there are some potential trade back situations. But again, you don't want to trade back just for the sake of trading back. Even if you could maybe, if you're adding just hypothetically, a late 3rd round pick to move down to 9 or 10, I don't know if that necessarily would be worth it, because then you're going to miss out on the top tier of guys that you're considering at 5. But obviously, the more teams that are trying to trade up, the better it would be for any team trying to trade down. It's going to drive the price up.
Nick, I would only close out the topic by saying this. And I've said it before. I'll do it one more time here and maybe a few more times before the draft starts. If you've got a slam your fist on the table conviction about a guy at 5, just take him. Don't get too fancy.
Agreed.
Don't.
Because there might be a trade back situation that arises in the 2nd round. Obviously, you won't get quite as much of a haul, but we've spoken about this. Giants could be in a situation where they can maybe move down from 37 to the early to mid 40s and pick up a 3rd round pick. That's a situation where I think I would rather that than trade back from 5 to 9, 10, 11, 12.
As would I. All right, Nick?
I'm interested in moving down from 37 too. I think that's more realistic if we're looking at the board here. I mean, nothing's definite here on draft day, but there's a very, very good chance one of Styles, Downs, or Love is there at 5 for them to take, and I think that's the 3 guys we're going to start honing in on in the next 2 weeks.
Appreciate the call, Nick. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's go to Donnie from Queens. You're next on Big Blue Kickoff Live. Hello.
Hey, gentlemen. Good afternoon. How are you?
Hey, good to talk to you.
How are you?
Yeah, it's been a while. Unfortunately, my work schedule changed. Can't call in as often, but I'm always listening.
Appreciate it.
Not loving the crop of players available to us at 5 this year.
Really?
Yeah, and it's not that I don't think they're good players or good prospects, but positionally, when you're looking at an inside linebacker, an off-ball linebacker, or a safety, or Jeremiah Love, if you take those guys and they turn out to be league average players, it's a bad pick. Whereas, Kayvon, right, at 5, probably hasn't lived up to being the 5th overall pick, but he's a starting caliber player.
Mm-hmm.
You can live with that type of thing. So I'm not loving the crop of guys that we have in.
All right, Donnie, let me try to help alleviate your stress on this just a little bit.
Please.
I had this conversation 2 days ago with John on the program because I chatted with Justin Tuck earlier in the week. And Justin was all about the trenches, as he should be, understanding the Giants' tradition and also the fact that he played along the defensive line. I expected him to say that, as I'm old school, so, I believe the same thing. So I said to Justin, because he started glowing about Styles and about Downs and about Reese. Those 3 guys, he was really, really super high on all 3 of those guys and saying, man, if the Giants could get any one of those guys. And I said, all right, now, Justin, hold on. Let's talk about this for a second. Reese is the only one who plays up on the line, okay? Because if he's going to play edge, he'll be up on the line. Styles is a middle linebacker. Downs is a safety. How much does that bother you that those guys are not trenches guys and you're considering picking them at 5? And he goes, no. He goes, you got to understand something. Styles has so much versatility. Downs has so much versatility. You don't consider those guys middle linebackers and safeties. You consider those guys 3 position players apiece. Therefore, the positional value equation does not apply to those guys. And I thought that was a very interesting way to look at it.
And the one thing I just want to clarify on that statement, because I've seen way too many people on Twitter put this comparison out there. What Paul just said, and I'm talking about Sonny Styles specifically, that does not, I hate the comps that people are saying, oh, it's just Isaiah Simmons 2.0. Because when Isaiah Simmons was coming into the draft, people did not know what position he was best suited at. They didn't know if he would be better off at linebacker or at safety. Sonny Styles is a linebacker. He will be has the potential to be a very, very good linebacker with the versatility to also line up at a handful of other positions as well. But linebacker will be his primary position. So I've just seen so many people say, oh, it's just Isaiah Simmons all over again. And that just is not the case at all. Because Isaiah Simmons, people did not know where he was going to be able to line up and have any sort of success in the NFL. They just said, oh, he's a great athlete. Sonny Styles will be a good linebacker. It's just he also could line up at a few other spots in addition to that.
Now, Donnie, I'm going to add one other piece of pizza here to this pie for you, and that is Tuck's description about having Styles play different roles. Again, not positions, but different roles in your defense. Downs, different roles in your defense. Plays into Denard Wilson, the Giants defensive coordinator, who finally had a press briefing with us the other day. And what was his number one characteristic about what he wants to do on defense? He wants to confuse the offense. He wants it to be undiscernible as to what you guys are going to see when he lines up his defense. He wants to cause mass confusion for the coordinator and the head coach. Well, that also plays into the value of what Justin Tuck is talking about. So anybody who out there wants to stress positional value, take that part of your thinking and kind of throw that onto the shelf. I'm not one who stresses that anyway. I don't buy that positional value garbage. I don't. A great player who's going to make an impact is a great player who's going to make an impact. I never bought it, and I'm so glad that I had to talk with Justin that I did the other night, because it really validated how I feel about positional value.
Yeah, just going back real quick to what you said about Denard Wilson. He gave the 4 pillars of what he wants this Giants defense to be, and that's unpredictable, dynamic, decisive, and unapologetic. I mean, those characteristics, Sonny Styles and Caleb Downs check all of those boxes.
They do.
Without a doubt.
Well, look, obviously a great player is a great player, but you don't know that you're getting a great player. Obviously the draft is hit or miss, right?
You never know.
There's no doubt.
If I told you there was a blue chip defensive tackle on this draft, you probably would rather, he was on the same level of prospect as Styles or Downs. You would probably prefer the defensive tackle. So you always have to weigh things. But look, they don't have that ability. For me, my two guys are, if I had to choose, I want Maui Noah or Styles. Those are the two guys that I prefer the most. So I appreciate what Justin said, and who am I to question him? He's got a couple rings on his finger.
He does, and he's in the Ring of Honor, too.
Yeah. Paul? We need more guys like him.
Yes, so, I'm all for that. I'm all for it. Thank you, Donnie.
One thing I'll say, though, real quick, and then I'll hang up. As much as I love Reese the prospect, I feel like he's too samey for what we have. One guy, and I'll hang up and I'll listen, Ruben Bain to me kind of presents where he could be that Justin Tuck for us to move inside on the passing downs and rush upfield next to Dexter. And then be the edge setter on the run downs.
Donnie, that's what Chauncey Golston was supposed to be this past year. I know because I talked to the coaches about it, and it didn't happen because he was injured. They never got a chance to give him the full playbook, and as a result, they never really got him into the flow. Now that he's healthy, I'm very interested to see him take on the Justin Tuck role in year 2.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Somebody that can set the edge.
I agree. I agree.
I
got high expectations for him. Now, I have not specifically talked about him to Denard Wilson, but I think on the basis of the unpredictability thing, he is going to be that guy.
You,
anyway, thank you, Donnie.
Yeah, I agree. But I mean, Ruben Bain's a great prospect. No doubt, but
I'm not disputing
no,
that.
of course, but we've said this before, but just the way that the Giants roster is currently constructed with the 3 edge rushers at the top of the depth chart, not to mention Chauncey Golston, that is one player where I would be surprised if it's the pick at 5.
So would I.
Unless there's, some sort of big trade before the draft, but with the way that the roster is currently constructed, that is one that I would be a little bit of a head scratcher.
Yeah. I agree. The Giants Huddle podcast is always up and available. We get new guys up there every single week. John always talks to people who are either with the Giants or NFL personalities or even some people who are about the draft. Anything go up in the last couple of days?
I don't think that's up on the Giants.com yet, but up on Omni and YouTube. John had a conversation with Field Yates from ESPN. I'm a big fan of Field. Haven't had a chance to listen to it yet, but they talked, obviously, NFL draft. So that will be up on Giants.com as soon as I get back to my desk upstairs. We've also, Charles Davis was on the huddle. I believe that went up yesterday.
Yep.
And then we've also started to post the series The Drive, which is Sean O'Hara in a car driving around with various coaches of the Giants. So far, Matt Nagy is up. And I believe Chris Horton went up as well.
Okay.
There will be Denard Wilson coming soon. And then I'm not sure exactly, but at least some of the position coaches as well.
I'm jealous he gets to ride in those Cadillacs. Those are nice machines. Whoa.
I got to drive it around yesterday.
Oh, wait a minute. Pearson, hold on. What gave you the right to drive behind one of those
he's Pearson
wheels?
Butler. What do you mean?
My goodness.
I'm the first one they called to drive the Cadillac.
Oh, my.
No, it's incredible, though.
Great machines.
They only called Sean because Pearson was unavailable.
There you go. Okay. Appreciate the input on that. So, folks, again, the Giants Huddle podcast. Also, I guess John probably put up another draft season probably last week as well. So
yes, that
with
check
David
all that stuff out.
Yep.
Oh, size up there. Okay, there you go. All right, one more phone call. Looks like we'll get to Coach Marvin in Delaware as our last caller on the program. Go ahead, Coach.
How you doing, Paul?
Hey, how are you?
Hey, Coach.
I'm doing pretty good. Not too bad. I do drive the Giant-sponsored car. I do drive, not that one, but I do drive a Cadillac. So
very nice.
I'm all Giant. The last caller was concerned about the draft. Sounds like he didn't like where we were sitting. If he didn't like those guys, I don't know who in the draft he would like. I heard him say Noah, but that was the only one he mentioned. But with this sitting in that 5th spot, there are so many guys that are going to be sitting there. I'm sure we have a list of 5 to 6 guys, and I believe that between 3 and 4 of those guys are going to be there at 5.
Yeah. Coach, can I ask you a question before you go further? And I don't want to interrupt you, but I think it's important. John asked me the other day, he said, let's just say for argument's sake, and this went into the whole positional value argument, and you know where I stand on that one. He said, let's just say that Mauigoa or Fano, but Mauigoa more likely, let's say you decide that you believe he's going to be a great guard, one of Chris Snee level, okay? That he's going to be a starter for 10 years and he's going to go to 5 Pro Bowls. I mean, he's going to be that type of player. Would you be willing to take him at 5? My answer immediately was yes, because I have 2 requirements for my pick at 5. That he is a high-impact player and that he maxes out and does it for an extended period of time. If you and of course, Chris Snee was a second-round pick, I understand. But I would have absolutely no problem with any guy at any position who's going to start for 10 years and get me 5 Pro Bowls.
I was about to say, if you can guarantee me that from anyone we
Sign
pick,
me up.
I'll take anyone then.
Right?
Of course.
So take positional value and throw that line of thought in the trash. You give me 5 Pro Bowls in 10 years of starting, I don't care what position you play.
Not to mention, he also, just Mauigoa specifically, obviously has the capability of kicking outside and playing tackle down the road if, Andrew Thomas or Jermaine Illuminor were no longer on the team, or if one of them were to get hurt, provides that versatility to kick outside as well, which is obviously the more versatility you have up front, the better.
Coach, your thoughts on that angle?
I would take him if you can guarantee me that. That's hard to assume that we can guarantee it anyway.
Of course,
I would take that. Yes, I would take Mauigoa. Now, if they choose to take him, I'm fine with it, because this draft is going to be a combination of 2 picks, the first and the second. Mm-hmm. You take Mauigoa. What you going to take after him? Are you going to, because the combination is going to be different ones. It's going to be, you could take 2 offensive players. You take Mauigoa, and you can take a wide receiver in the second round.
Sure, you could.
You can take Love and take a offensive lineman in the second round. You can go defense with 2 defensive players, a defensive tackle, and you can go with Sonny Styles. You can go with an offensive player and a defensive player. It's so many combinations. But to your question, yeah, I would take him if I can guarantee he's going to be 10 years as a Pro Bowler. You can't turn that down. But the problem is we're playing let's make a deal. There's a curtain, and we don't know what's behind it.
Well, you know, Coach, and you know this too because you coach for so long, and you know when a guy comes into camp and you got to work him out and you got to say, okay, this is what I think he can be. If you have a personnel department that has slam your fist on the table conviction that this guy is going to be that guy, well, then you're obligated to take him. You really are.
Yeah. But my thing, and it also into that, what you're saying, Paul, this is what I would say if I'm sitting in that room. That everybody that plays football, coaches football, watches football, there's 2 things we always talk about. You have to run the ball, and you have to stop the run. Mm-hmm. So I put those 2 things up. Then I put those players that help us in both those areas. And then I say, where did we have the most problems? Did we have more problems last year running the ball or stopping the run? Mm-hmm. And I would say we had more of a problem stopping the run than we did running the ball.
Absolutely.
Because I'm looking at that 5th pick. So now I'm going to look at who's going to help me more to stop the run and which is a quality player. Mm-hmm. And the one I came up with was Sonny Styles. Mm-hmm.
And I think Downs is also in that conversation, Coach. I think Downs is in the conversation. He's a very, very strong, impactful run stopper.
Right. And he is. I was going to say that between those 2 that was in my list. If Sonny is gone, then I'm going Caleb Downs. If they both are there, I'm going Sonny. Mm-hmm. And they said that he's just you talking position value. Didn't we see this a few years ago when everybody was talking about Michael Parsons, what he only can do? Everybody was only talking about he's off ball, and he fell the way he was. And he's more than just that. And I think Sonny Styles is not Michael Parsons, but he can play different positions. He can blitz from over the guard, and you don't know if he can play on the edge. I don't know. But these guys going to have to see what else he can do with as athletic as he is. So I like Sonny Styles. I do love Caleb Down, too. But whatever this team do, I'm sure they're going to have a combination between that 1 and that 2 pick that's going to match those those picks together. And I think it's going to help this team. But one last thing, Paul, you were talking about Delaney, and I'm with you. Delaney is not my guy. He's a good player. He's a first-round player. I like McCoy better. McCoy had an injury, but I like him better.
Yeah, the injury thing is a flag.
I would wait for Chris Johnson if I'm not going to pull a corner.
Yeah, well, and you know what? You're going to have to hope he's there then at 37 and that you stay at 37. Because if you move down, there's a chance he's gone.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, right. Because Sonny and Downs are the two that I would pick over Delaney. I think I would go Tate before Delaney. I may go Marinora before Delaney. So I don't have Delaney. I have him on my list, but it's not high enough for me to take him at 5. And I like McCoy better than I like him. So that's why. And the only reason I said Chris Johnson, because I would take Sonny Styles as he's there. And if Chris is there in the second, you don't know who's going to be there because you're going to have a long list of guys you can take in the second round at that 37th pick. And then we don't even know who's going to fall from the first round to the 37th pick. So somebody's going to fall. Somebody. We don't know who it is, but somebody is going to fall.
Coach, bottom line is you're not trading out of 5 if either Downs or Styles are still on the board. You're not moving down, are you?
Ooh, that's scary. And you guys was feeling a little bit the same way I was feeling because this draft is really tough to decide. But I'm not going into that 10th pick. That's too far from me. If I can go one pick back to the 6th and those guys are there, I do it. But we can't even guarantee if you go 2 or 3 back that who you want is going to be there. You can't guarantee that. You can guess it, but you can't guarantee it. If I want what I want, and I think because you take Sonny Styles or Caleb Downs and you put them with the Burns and Abdul Carter and Dexter, we have something there. There's something there, and I think that's why this is an important draft. There's some good guys out there. Are they superstars? I don't see any superstars. But Sonny Styles, Caleb Downs, they have that leadership quality, and those guys are, like you said, Paul, they just not one position players. And same thing Matt was saying, they're not one position players. These guys you can move around. The term you hear is elephant. We call it bearcat, and that bearcat I can move him where I want to move him. Mm-hmm. They didn't know where I was lining him up at, and he was outstanding doing that stuff. So he wasn't just one position guy, but he was set in that position. If he was a linebacker, he was a linebacker. But I can move him around as a linebacker. And so you can keep your title. You're just doing more. That's all. So when people are like, I don't know what he is, he's a linebacker. He's just a guy that can move around. That's all he is. He plays football.
Thanks, Coach.
So, all right, guys.
Appreciate
have
it.
a good weekend.
Thank you, Coach.
All right, you want to confirm a transaction yesterday that came out after the show?
Yes, after the show ended yesterday, we announced officially that Daniel Falele has signed. He is now part of that group of O-linemen. Started the last 2 years at guard for the Ravens. I think he started all 34 games for the Ravens. Big guy. He's immediately the biggest guy in this locker room, and the locker room was
massive,
filled with some big guys already. But 6'8". I don't even know what his official weight is listed at. 350.
I think he's 360.
360. He's.
I don't know what
massive.
They're listing him at, but I've had people tell me he's like 360.
So he will immediately, at the very least, compete for that starting right guard spot. There's now a group of guys that seem to all be in competition for that spot between Falele. Let's see, there was Evan Neal, obviously was brought back. Aaron Stinney.
Keep going.
We don't know still how the coaching staff views Marcus Bowe, but maybe he's in the mix there as well. Azudu.
Kubas.
Kubas. There's a
and who
group.
knows? Runyon may have to fight for his job at left guard, too. You never know.
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone is going to have to earn their spots in the starting lineup with this new coaching staff.
Okay.
Nothing is going to be handed to anyone. I feel pretty confident in saying Jackson Dart will be the starting quarterback week 1, assuming he's healthy, but pretty much everyone else.
You want to bet on that one?
Everyone's going to have to earn their spots, which is the way it should be. Nothing is handed to anyone in the NFL.
Competition is a good thing. It can make a team better 9 times out of 10, usually. Yes. Every once in a while when the competition isn't very good or you have to give a guy a position by default, that's really bad. I don't see that happening here. I think the Giants are in a competition actually to make them better as opposed to trying to find a guy by default. But here's my question for you. And this is an important question because it has to do with what you said 5 minutes ago. You said, how about they take a defensive player, maybe Styles at 5, and then take a corner at 37. You said take maybe 2 defensive players with those first 2 picks. Would you be more apt to do that now that you've got a whole bunch of offensive linemen on the current roster? Think about this for 1 second before you answer.
Yeah.
You re-signed Illuminor. You know you got Thomas under contract for another couple of years. You know you got Marcus Bowe, who's tackle guard flexibility. You now have potentially 5, maybe 6 guards competing for 2 starting spots. Also signed Lucas Patrick, who has started at center in this league and done some things. I mean, he's
I kind of view Patrick as the role that like Austin Schlottman had the last 2 years. Well, last year.
And
2 years ago, he was hurt,
to some degree, you know, who knows? Maybe he'll compete with JMS.
Yeah,
who knows?
Backup center, versatility at guard as well.
So now, with all of those bodies in the offensive line room, are you more apt to draft 2 defensive players, or if you're going to draft an offensive player in the first 2 rounds, a wide receiver? Because offensive line now, you think you've got so much competition, you don't need to take one high.
I will say this. I think based on these, I still kind of consider them at the very least good depth signings on the O-line, on the interior. Maybe right guard isn't as big of a glaring need as it was, a couple weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say if that when the Giants are on the clock, whether it's at 5 and we're looking at Francis Mauigoa, or we're at 37 and we're looking at the group of guys, Pregnon, Bisontes, those offensive linemen, if those guys are at the top of the board, you still take them. I don't think any of these signings now make it so you don't need or don't want to take those guys if they're the best player available, because basically all of these guys that we just talked about as competing, they all got signed to 1-year deals reportedly.
Mm-hmm.
And John Runyon is on the last year of his contract.
Mm-hmm.
When you draft guys, especially 5 and 37, you're drafting to help in 2026, but you're also looking beyond that. You're trying to put together an early idea of what your roster might look like in 2027 and moving forward. So I will say, personally, I think if a guard is at the very top of your board, you still take him. But I would say that this makes you a little bit slightly less of a need. And I did say before, the Giants could go defense, a linebacker and a defensive tackle to really shore up the run defense.
And they badly need defense, especially up front and at corner.
For sure. If I had to guess right now, we're a little under 2 weeks away. The draft's 2 weeks from tomorrow. I think between the picks of 5 and 37, barring some sort of trade back or whatever, if the Giants stick at 5 and 37, 1 pick will help the run defense. 1 pick will help the run game on offense. That would be my pick right now. Okay. Whether that's, again, Maui Noah and one of these defensive tackles we've been talking about at 37. I mean, would you take Maui Noah at 5 and then Lee Hunter at 37? With that combination? Would that interest you?
Probably not.
Okay. What about
I'm taking
Sonny Styles and Pregnon?
Oh, see, that's different because you're going with the defensive guy at 5. I'd be much more interested in that.
Okay. Caleb Downs or
fine.
Whatever.
Bisontes,
yeah.
Fine.
Okay, so you're leaning a lot more towards.
I'm leaning towards. I got to get a defensive impact player at 5.
And that's totally fair. I mean, again, as Coach Marvin just mentioned, the offensive run game was great last year. Now, Jackson Dart played a big part in that, but guess what? Jackson Dart's back this year. Nothing's changing on that front.
5th most productive running game in the league.
Yeah, and Cam Scadaboo should be healthy come week 1.
Mm-hmm.
Tyrone Tracy's now going into year 3. The run game has pieces there.
Mm-hmm.
The run defense, obviously, we've spoken about this for years. That has been the team's biggest Achilles heel the last couple of years. They have not been able to stop the run. And John Harbaugh spoke about it at the league meetings. He said, I can live with a Jamar Chase or T. Higgins catching that big touchdown catch sometimes. I can live with that. But what kills you is when the opposing team can just consistently run and get 4 or 5 yards every single time they run the ball and just slowly bleed you to death. That is what I cannot live with. So, yeah, my early 13 days out prediction would also be defense at 5. Whether it's Sonny Styles, Caleb Downs, I'd be more than happy with either one of them.
So would Dan Salamone.
And then at 37, I lean towards guard despite all this recent signings just because we know how much John Harbaugh loves to run the football.
Mm-hmm.
But if there's a wide receiver at the top of the board or if they want to double up on defense, totally cool with that as well. But I do agree with you. Right now, I'm leaning towards that first pick being in some way, shape, or form a boost to the run defense.
Yeah. That'll do it for this edition of Big Blue Kickoff Live, presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the New York Football Giants. As always, we have come to you from the Giants podcast studio, presented by Hackensack Meridian Health. Keep getting better. We thank Brian Jensen, the play-by-play man from Texas Tech, who joined us for the first 20 minutes of the program to talk about the Red Raiders NFL draft prospects. So if you're listening on the archive, go right back there and get a listen. There's a whole bunch of great information about their prospects. That'll do it for today's edition of the show. We'll be back once again, another live program on Monday at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time here on Giants.com. For Matt Citak, I'm Paul Dottino. We'll see you next time.